worshipful Grand Master, your officers past and present, and hopefully those for the future. This evening's lecture is rather significant and gives me quite a lot of pleasure as well as displeasure having to give it. Why the pleasure is very understandable. Why the displeasure may be the problem. But the problem comes not from the persons receiving it. It comes from the manner in which they receive the information for what they have. I brought with me, as you see right here, two basic books. They are books from Egypt. When these books were written, there was no God by the name of Jehovah, no God by the name of Jesus, and no God by the name of Allah. Yet African people were here in this world. And I'm going to speak on data going back before Adam and Eve. There were no Adam and no Eve from whence I'm going to speak, and the world was here. There was no book of Genesis because the Hebrews gave us what is called the 5 books of Moses. And the first Hebrew was a man called Abraham.
All right.
Abraham was born in the city of Ur in Chaldea. It is spelled U-R, Ur, and Chaldea is spelled C-H-A-L-D-E-A. He was born around 1700 before the Common Era, as you may say, before Christ. That means that his mother was here. I said he was born from a woman and a man, meaning both parents preceded him, and their parents and ancestors before them preceded him. He was born after they were already a nation, and many other nations that were neighbors to that nation, and there was no state by the name of Israel yet. So I give just slight background to start so that you have no problem in understanding that Solomon wasn't born yet. It would be Abraham was born, according to them, around the 14th dynasty. That's us, the Africans. We had dynasties all along the Nile. I don't know of an Asian dynasty nor the European dynasty, but I can assure you there were African dynasties. Thus, if we had dynasties, we had pharaohs. As a matter of fact, we had the first one. And we had them until the Asians came, while we were in our 14th dynasty, the first group of Asians to come to conquer any part in the continent we call today Africa. We had dynasties. In and around the first dynasty, we were still without an organization we today call Masonic, by whatever reason or meaning. And in the third dynasty, however, we started an organization to continue the building of structures in Egypt. And may I remind you that Egypt is the last nation built along the Nile, not the first, as some of us speak. The first nation built around the Nile started in Central East Africa. Today we call it Uganda. It was part of the Bokanga Kingdom. And I'm going back rather far because I'm going before the first dynasty, meaning I'm going before 4,100 years before the Christian era. Solomon, on the other hand, doesn't come in before 1000 BC, and that would be around the time when Greece came into existence. That means the first European nation. I hope you will take note of that fact. The first European nation in history is Greece and Rome. That is providing you want to accept that a wolf named Remus raised two people, and those people created a state. I mean, if all those kind of things we accept in Harvard and places like that, and it's okay. But when I speak anything serious, it's difficult because they come from Africa. Now, these positions I'm laying down so that we have no difficulty when I start to deal more directly in what we call the Masonic literature. It would seem to me that the history states that the first literary person in all of Europe, the first one to have written anything for publication so that others can read it, would be a Greek. And that Greek would write two pieces of literature, the Iliad and the Odyssey. The first two books written any place in Europe. And the nation was called Greece, and the author was Homer. There is, I will put my life on it, no other work written in Europe prior to those two books, the Iliad and the Odyssey. And Homer said in the Odyssey, even the gods that Greece adopted came from Ethiopia. And there is no Ethiopia anyway in the continent of Europe. No Asia. There's one in Africa, East Africa to be exact. I know I was born there. Now, that as it is, we need to move a little, but I just thought that it was necessary to establish this point.